It's almost 2:45, and it's time. A time and a number that still define the high jump. Javier Sotomayor, 2.45 meter world record has stood unbroken for 31 years. Sharing the stage with him is Tejaswin Shankar, India's national record holder in both the high jump and the decathlon. The session is anchored by Arup Ghosh, veteran journalist and head of NNIS Sports, the country's only news agency dedicated to Indian track and field. A rare conversation between two athletes who know exactly what it means to live above the war. Please welcome on stage Javier Sotomayor. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we have Tejaswin Shankar and Arup Ghosh in the session.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the big moment. And I'm sure you can do better than just sit on your seats and clap. Please stand up for Javier Sotomayor, a legendary figure, a champion whose record hasn't been broken for the last 30 years. Javier Sotomayor. And India's TJ, a great athlete from India, a decathlete, his national record in the high jump stands. And you should see his videos where he's minus his shirt. It's terrific, believe me.
It's pretty cool that Sotomayor is clapping for my high jump achievements, but
it's just I want to give a short intro as to how I am here, because the festival director, Sandeep Mishra, he's made me do a lot of work in cricket for several years. We've done several shows. We've gotten top cricket stars, besides my own personal love for the game. But then, this time he said, Suniye, Javier Sotomayor aa rahe hain, aap wo anchor kijiyega. So initially, I was a bit wondering as to how to really handle a session with such a legendary figure. Then, when I had a look at his video, and please do check out his video, it's so beautiful. It's as if a great athlete comes in, and we've seen quite a few high jumpers of late. There are the top 7, I'll go through that. But it's like a butterfly, a beautiful poetry in motion. A man who comes in and jumps 8 feet. It's 2.45 meters, which has remained untouched for 30 years. It's remarkable. Another round of applause, please. Dil se, thode dil se taali bajayegi. And before I go over to Javier for his point of view, there are just 3 stats I want to read out. His first world record was 2.43 meters in Salamanca in 1988. The second world record was 2.445 meters in San Juan in 89. And then the immortal world record, 2.45 meters in Salamanca in 93, which still stands, which is remarkable. I mean, it's beyond belief. Javier, I don't have too many questions, but I would want your point of view. The first is that what is your personal belief that, how do you analyze the fact that your record still stands after 30 years despite some very fine athletes trying very hard to break your record?
Bueno, antes que empezar, quiero agradecerle a todos los organizadores esta invitación y esta oportunidad de estar acá con ustedes.
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be here with all of you.
A ver, para mí un honor, después de 37 años como recordista mundial absoluto.
It's an absolute honor to be the world record holder for 37 years on the go.
Aunque siempre he estado consciente de que algún día alguien me superará.
But I've always been conscious of the fact that someday somebody is going to overcome this mark.
Es un conocimiento para todos, más que todo. El salto de 2.45 es la altura o el récord que más de mí conocen.
So everybody knows me for that 2.45 meters mark.
Pero hay un récord mundial mío que es bien desconocido, pero para mí es más difícil de batir.
But I have also another world record, which for me, which not many people know about, but for which me is more difficult to beat.
El récord mundial para jóvenes, de cadetes, menor de 16, de 17, menor de 18 años, con 2.33. Para mí es el récord más difícil que
It's
2.45.
the age group record that I hold, 2.33 meters under 18 years. I think that one will be more difficult to break.
I want to quickly go over Javier's record where biomechanics is concerned, and we will ask him what it actually means, how he breaks it down. So for all of us, including for me, I mean, we're trying to understand what is 8 feet. I mean, a man does a high jump of 8 feet, 2.45 meters, which is in simpler terms, आसान शब्दों में, it is higher than a football crossbar. Goal post जो होता है, it's higher than that. And it is 2 centimeters above a men's volleyball net. Now, before anyone thinks that, was this a fluke, was this a one-off thing, I'll give you some more stats. He's had 192 jumps over 2.30 meters. 192 jumps over 2.30 meters. 80 jumps over 2.35 meters. And 21 times over 2.40 meters. I mean, that's insane. It's incredible. It's unbelievable. But yet he's here. Javier, when you look back at your own record and that particular day when you set the world record, describe for us, take us through that moment, what was going on in your mind, your preparations and your thoughts.
A ver, cada vez que yo hice un récord, lo primero es que yo fui mentalizado de que podía lograrlo.
Every time that I set a record, I first thought about it, I visualized it in my mind, how I could do that, and that I could do that.
Yo digo que el caso de la disciplina nuestra, al igual que la pértiga, dentro de las disciplinas del atletismo, son de las disciplinas que tú tienes que estar mentalmente preparado para lograr un resultado.
I think our discipline, along with the pole vault, it is the most important to be prepared mentally that you are going to exceed that particular height. That is the most important aspect.
No quitarle importancia a ninguna disciplina, pero en 100 metros, en 200 metros, en longitud, en los lanzamientos, tú puedes hacer tu mejor carrera, en los lanzamientos, en el primer lanzamiento puedes hacer tu mejor movimiento, tu mejor fuerza, tu mejor velocidad en cada una de las disciplinas, y ese récord que tú haces es el que vale.
Said, I am not downplaying any other discipline, but all the other disciplines like the different sprints or different kind of runs or throw, you can make a record in that moment that you perform your best, that it can turn out to be the record.
En el caso de nosotros, sabemos qué es lo que vamos a enfrentar, la altura o el nivel que vamos a saltar, a intentar saltar.
But we already know from beforehand what is that target, what is that particular target that we have to overcome today. So it's not a thing of that moment, but we already know that that is our challenge.
Si no estás preparado para hacerlo, no lo logras. Por eso se puede dar el caso de un saltador 2.30, hacer la mejor ejecución, la mejor técnica, la mejor despegue, y en 2.30 hacer el salto muy por encima. Y luego en 2.32, que es solo 2 centímetros, darle con la cabeza.
I'm saying that, so for example, if a jumper is doing 230 with a lot of good technique, a lot of preparation smoothly, but if you change it, put it up by 2 more centimeters, it can be a different ball game altogether.
Por eso cada vez que intenté el récord, creí que lo podía hacer.
So every time I set a record, I already believed that I was going to do it.
TJ, let me bring you in on this conversation. I know a lot of India's hopes keep riding on your shoulders. You're one of our top athletes. You're a role model, and you speak brilliantly because I've interviewed you multiple times, and I've never ceased admiring your ability to explain the mechanics behind the sport. Can you give us your take of what Javier Sotomayor did with that world record? How was it achievable? And above all, why has it stood the test of time? I mean, 30 years, it's madness.
Yeah, so sitting here, firstly, this place has turned into a classroom for me. I'm just soaking everything, taking mental notes because I have the best teacher in front of me here teaching about the high jump, which is my favorite event. But before I answer your question, I'm extremely thankful for this platform to give me this opportunity to sit with the legend. And I'd like to take you guys back to 2014. That's when I started my journey as an athlete. I started off as a high jumper. And in 2014, we had high jump bed in our school. So I went, did high jump. I was good at it. And then my coach said, you know who the world record holder in the high jump is? I said, well, I don't know. He's like, well, go look it up. And that was the time before Instagram. So on YouTube, I'd put high jump world record. And the first thing that popped up was this very jump. I saw this jump. Obviously, the jump was really beautiful. All the things were perfect. And coming back to mechanics and all that sort of thing, I think the one thing that really did stick with me was even before the jump started, if you go back to the video, he's standing there for at least 30 seconds, just going back and forth with his eyes closed, visualizing what's going to come up next, what he's going to do. I also saw this video by Olympics channel, which, it's photos there. He's talking about his preparations, and somebody asked him, how many times have you jumped 245? He said, many times. But they said, well, you only jumped it once. But he said, I've jumped many times mentally. So I think that's what, for me, his ability or his high jumps all about is not just how many times he's gone over 240 or 235 or whatever it is, but how many times he's done it mentally, or how committed he is to his craft, where he's able to comprehend all those things mentally. And I think that's something that stands out for me outside of any other athlete, his ability to think through the motions and go out and execute that. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me as an athlete.
TJ, explain to us your point of view on that run-up of his before he does it. And there is a strange languidness. It's very relaxed, and it is quite unlike a lot of the other athletes. So was there anything special in that? Did he conjure up something which was very, very special, which no other person could possibly copy?
I think it just looks like a gazelle, when he's running through that approach. Looks like a deer. And then, I think something else that does stand out is everybody in high jump knows that, the last few steps are extremely important, and that's where a lot of the force is generated. And when you look at that jump, you can barely see his feet. It's just extremely fast, extremely explosive, and the rhythm is just unbelievable. And I mean, I can't sit here and talk about his approach when you're talking to the world record holder. I'd definitely like to hear from him what he thinks about what happened through that approach. But looking at those things, these are all things that growing up we tried to copy. We tried to before going on to jump, it's like, hey man, I'm Sotomayor, and you go and make a jump, and if you make the bar, like hey, and then all that sort of thing. So these are all just childhood memories, and I'm extremely grateful to be sitting here with the legend himself, talking about his jump. So
Javier, many coaches say your biomechanics were ahead of their time. Now, from your perspective, what specific technical elements gave you an edge that others have not been able to replicate?
A ver, existen para mí dos tipos de saltadores. Saltadores que dependen mucho de su velocidad y saltadores que dependen mucho de su fuerza.
So for me, there are two kind of jumpers. Some who depend a lot on their speed, and some who depend a lot on the force that they generate.
Y yo lo que traté de hacer la combinación de ambos saltadores.
I wanted to be a combination of these two kind of jumpers.
Creo que eso me consideré un saltador bastante fuerte, muy potente, y lo que hice es tratar de, como bien acá decía el amigo, de los últimos pasos hacerlo lo más rápido posible para convertir esa velocidad en potencia, y la potencia, por supuesto, en un buen salto.
So I realized that I was a capable jumper, and what I tried to do, like TJ very well explained here, that in the last few steps, do it as fast as possible to generate the maximum possible force.
Biomecánicamente, en lo que ha estudiado la mayoría de los saltadores, no es técnicamente, en teoría, mi salto no es el mejor, en teoría.
Saying biomechanically, they have studied that way. My jump is not the best ever. It's not like the best which can be achieved.
And he wants us to believe that.
El último paso mío es demasiado amplio.
But his last step is very long. That's what they have studied. Yeah, it's massive.
Para poder salir de ese paso muy amplio, tenía que combinar esas cosas, la fuerza con la velocidad.
But to get that last step, that massive last step, you have to combine these two aspects, the speed and the force.
Y en la teoría no es lo mejor, pero en la práctica para mí sí lo fue.
He's saying, yeah, theoretically, yes, possible to overcome that.
The research indicates that the force on his takeoff ankle at the point that he takes off over the bar, that force on his takeoff ankle is roughly 500 kilograms of pressure. 500 kilograms of pressure. Is that correct? And if it is correct, then how is that ankle taking that kind of heat?
Bueno, con mucha preparación, mucho entrenamiento, mucho estiramiento, mucho ejercicio igual de fisioterapia también hacía para prevenir lesiones.
With a lot of training, with a lot of preparation, with a lot of physical therapy, with a lot of jumping practice, so I prepared that ankle to not be injured with that.
Yo ya mecánicamente, estando fuera de las pistas, me pasaba mecánicamente me salía, me ponía a hacer ejercicio, hacer más que todo estiramiento, fortalecimiento para los tobillos, porque de la forma en que yo saltaba, sufría mucho.
Saying I always, even outside, when I was outside the track, I always had to work on my jumping, on my ankle, because otherwise I would have suffered a lot.
Javier, what interests me a lot is that you have TJ sitting next to you, who is a star athlete. You have the ladies there who are phenomenal athletes of India, all striving to leave their mark. You mentioned a very important point on mental strength, that it is very, very important to be mentally strong. How do you harness mental strength? How do you increase mental strength? And how do you maintain consistency of mental strength?
Lo primero que tiene que hacer un atleta es ser apasionado con lo que hace. Es lo primero.
The first thing which each athlete has to do is to be passionate about what they're doing.
Ser muy disciplinado, porque los resultados no se alcanzan un día, se alcanza en muchos días de trabajo.
And the second thing is discipline, to be constantly disciplined over a long period of time, because the one day of results is based on many, many, many days of preparation.
Y tener sueños y propuestas, pero siempre ambiciosas.
You have to have dreams and you have to have your projects and have to be very ambitious.
Pero una ambición real que sepan que puedan alcanzar.
But also it should be an achievable ambition, that you know that you will be able to do it.
Por si no lo logran, no se vayan a sentir frustrados.
Because then if you can't make it, you won't feel too frustrated.
Pero sobre todo tienen que tener una mentalidad y un espíritu de superarse a sí mismo siempre. No puede estar el mismo año saltando lo mismo que el año anterior, más cuando se es joven.
Most important is to you always tell yourself that I'm going to do better than myself. Every year I'm going to reach a higher mark than the past year.
Y cada año trazarse objetivos bien altos para tratar de lograrlo.
And every year set higher goals to be able to try and achieve them.
Javier, take us through the process of training, particularly you always had the height, 6 feet 5 inches, if I'm correct. Also, the fact is core strength training, keeping your weight down, all of that is important. There are, in a while, I'll go through the top 7 high jumpers in the world who are pushing to break your record. And they are all very good, it seems. But why is it that, what is the most important key element in strength training?
Pero también existían muchos otros atletas que estaban en las mismas competiciones. Entonces, ¿cómo pudo mantener esta forma sobre la preparación? Sí.
A ver, yo creo que fui un atleta el cual siempre se motivó en los entrenamientos para hacerlo bien.
I think I was always an athlete who was very driven for training, and that was the basis of my whole career, that I was very enthusiastic about training.
Los resultados se reflejan en las competencias, pero donde realmente se alcanza es en los entrenamientos.
And the competitions reflect the results, but where you actually get them is during the training.
Y hay que estar hay que ser ante que todo muy disciplinado,
First of all, you have to be very disciplined,
tener mucha motivación mental para hacerlo siempre bien
have a lot of mental motivation to do the best,
y ser consistente. No entrenar bien un día, mañana no, es ser consistente. Los entrenamientos tienen que ser fuertes o hacerlo bien cada día del año.
and you have to train every day of the year. You cannot train one day and not train the other. You have to be consistent throughout the year in training.
Y por eso creo que me ayudó mucho el físico mío o las condiciones natas mías, ayudó mucho la disciplina mía y me ayudó, aparte del físico, me ayudó también mucho la mente.
So I think I was really helped by my physical condition, but which I honed by training, and then finally with the mental strength I was able to complete it.
Y haber tenido la oportunidad de tener a mi lado grandes entrenadores.
And also I had the opportunity to train with great coaches.
I'll now toss it over to TJ. He has a couple of questions to ask of Javier. I also see a table full of very senior journalists, very experienced, who've been to multiple Olympics. I'll ask the organizers to give them a mic also. In between, I'll toss it over to them for a direct interaction with Javier. But first, over to you, TJ.
Thank you. I had one question since we are in this classroom. The biggest question that I had was you just mentioned pole vault, you mentioned high jump, you talked about mental strength, and this question ties back to the one prior to this. When you look at these two events, these are the only events where you can see what you have to actually jump. You know, in the pole vault and the high jump, you have the result in front of you, and then you have to make it. And only in these events, you have exceptional characters. You have somebody like a Bubka, you have somebody like a Mondo of the modern world, and the third person is yourself, who, in spite of competing with not just your other competitors, after a point, it's a competition within. So how are you able to motivate yourself to get over that bar? What's that mental makeup that you have to be able to do that, not just once, but time and again, be able to break that barrier, which people don't expect of you, but you yourself have, you know, for yourself. So that's my question to you, Soto.
Yo digo que también ayudó mucho haber vivido la mejor época o la mejor etapa del salto de altura a nivel mundial.
I think what really helped me also was to live in the best era of high jump in the world.
Porque tuve a mi lado muchos saltadores de un nivel bastante alto.
Because I had a lot of competitors of a very high level.
Y no es que saltaban bien una temporada, ni un día en la temporada. Saltaban muchas veces en la temporada bien y por muchos años bien.
And they were not just flukes, like we were not just jumping very well one day of the season, 1 year, but consistently over multiple seasons.
Cuando yo tenía 15 años, yo me di como mi primer objetivo ser el mejor del mundo a nivel de joven. Cuando fui joven, quise ser el mejor del mundo a nivel juvenil.
First time I really thought that I want to be the best in the world was at the age of 15, and that time my target was to be the best in the young category, in the youth category.
Y después que logré ser el mejor juvenil, entonces mi tarea era ser el mejor absoluto.
Once I achieved that, then I was like, yeah, now I want to be the best in the world.
Y en aquel entonces había un hombre llamado Patrick Schober que saltaba 2.42. Si quería ser el mejor del mundo, era necesario saltar 2.43.
And by then somebody had jumped 2.42, Patrick, I didn't get the name, but he said, so I was like, okay, so if he's the best in the world, I have to do better than him.
Ya después que logré ese mi primer récord absoluto, mis intenciones siempre fueron de seguir superándome.
But even once I was the best in the world, I always wanted to do better than myself. I always put the bar higher.
Aunque no haya saltado 2.46, pero siempre mi objetivo fue haber saltado 2.46, 2.47. Creo que me quedé, para mi pensamiento, para mi objetivo, para lo que realmente yo quería, me quedé un poco corto.
He said, even though I was never able to go beyond 2.45, in my head that was possible, that was a target. I always wanted to do 2.46, 2.47. So by my own assessment, I actually fell short a little bit.
Por eso digo que me ayudó mucho lo que yo siempre comento. El nivel que tiene que tener, la motivación que tiene que tener cada atleta de superarse a sí mismo.
So that's why I again repeat that the most important thing is in the mind of the athlete to do better than yourself each day.
I now toss over to my journalist friends there. Please go ahead and ask your questions. You have to put on your mic, please. Kindly take a mic. Kindly take a mic.
What do you think it was about?
En los años 90, que todos sus récords 91.
Please, just change the mic.
Mike Powell and Carl Lewis. Mike Powell and Carl Lewis in that fantastic duel in the World Championships, each one breaking the world record, set in 1968 by Bob Beamon. Then came yours in 93, the high jump, and then came in Gothenburg in 95, Jonathan Edwards. All three, 91, 93, 95, unbroken for over 30 years. What do you think was special in that era?
Yo puedo hablar exactamente de la longitud, pero lo mismo sucedía del salto de altura, pero igual sucedía en la longitud, sucedía en el triple, aunque en triple también se mantiene a un nivel alto, y creo que siempre ayuda. Cuando hay grandes competidores viviendo en la misma época, siempre eso ayuda a que los resultados sean mejores.
So I can only speak fully of the high jump, but I'm sure similar things were happening in long jump and triple jump also. It always helps when you have really high level competitors in your discipline, they end up pushing each other.
Hace unos 10 años atrás, el salto de altura tuvo un nivel bien alto, porque habían dos saltadores, Barchin y Bodarenko, que los dos tenían un nivel bien alto, y eso hacía, por supuesto, que en cada competición que se enfrentaran tenían que rendir al máximo.
And about 10 years ago in high jump also there was this movement where there were two jumpers, Barshim and the Ukrainian one, Bondarenko, and they were pushing each other up, and that's why the level of competition went really high.
Y creo que eso ayuda. Por eso yo digo, no sé hoy en día cuánto yo hubiera saltado. Por eso no me arrepiento de haber vivido esa época del salto de altura.
So I also don't know if I was jumping today, if I could have done what I did. So really I don't regret. I feel like it was good that I was jumping in that particular era.
Swami.
Javier, every world record is actually an evolution. It's not like one person jumps to a certain height, like 245 suddenly. What would you say, two of the great jumpers before you, Richard Fosbury, who got the flop, Valerie Brumel, who was almost like poetry in motion, and then you were like a bird soaring. What would you say that you actually learned from how Fosbury to Brumel to Sotomayor? And since what was the evolution process, or what did you see in that?
Bueno, tuve, antes de empezar yo a saltar, conocimiento de los antiguos saltadores, los saltadores que me antecedieron, como Valerie Blume, Dwight Stone, Jeff Welching, varios saltadores que saltaron antes de mi época.
I knew about all the high jumpers, all the great ones who had come before me and what they had achieved.
Pero ya tuve la suerte de empezar a saltar con otros grandes saltadores desde los 16 años.
But I had the good luck to start jumping with other champion high jumpers from the age of 16 onwards.
Yo llegué a saltar con Dwight Stone y Jack Wasola.
Dwight Stone and Jack Wasola.
Que fueron saltadores de la época de los 70, pero todavía en los 80 saltaban.
Who had started jumping in the late 70s, but they were still jumping while I started.
Y por supuesto, de todos ellos aprendí mucho. Yo era muy joven, pero yo fui un saltador o un atleta que siempre me gustó estudiar el evento.
So this helped me a lot. I was very young at the time, but I was always studying the other jumpers who were there before me.
Just one more quick question, and I won't take. In that period, there were so many Cuban athletes, right from Juan Torino, Alessandro, the hurdles, etc. Is there still another lot of Cuban athletes coming up? We also had a lot of boxers at that time. Does now still have the same kind of a reservoir of athletes?
En diferencia a los años 80, 90, principios de los 2000, donde en cada uno de los Juegos Olímpicos nosotros ganamos grandes cantidades de medallas, como ejemplo en el año 92, donde ganamos 34 medallas en los Juegos Olímpicos de Barcelona. Hoy en día, para tan mala suerte nuestra, no contamos con la cantidad de atletas de ese nivel de aquel entonces.
Saying, yeah, we had a brilliant period around then when we used to win multiple medals at each Olympics. In Barcelona, we won 34 medals. So, yeah, now we no longer have that quantity of athletes, those numbers at that highest level.
Algunos atletas están representando a otros países.
Some of our athletes are now representing other countries.
Y algunas condiciones internas, más que todo en la infraestructura deportiva, que no contamos en la actualidad.
And there are certain elements in the sports infrastructure also that we don't have right now.
Pero no falta la capacitación de los entrenadores y el talento de los cubanos para en cada una de las Olimpiadas seguir estando con algunos de nuestros atletas en los podios.
But we still have, what is not lacking is the training and the coach level support and the athletes, their inspiration, their passion, so that each Olympic we still have Cuban athletes on the podium still.
Just a hypothetical question, Xavier. Suppose, like today, when Mondo Duplantis breaks the world record by 1 centimeter, he gets 100,000 incentive. I don't think you ever got an incentive. And if you were jumping now, how many times do you think you would have broken the world record?
No, la verdad que, a ver, siempre es una motivación la parte monetaria, la parte económica, por supuesto. Pero yo creo que tuve otras motivaciones que me hicieron superarme. De hecho, a mí me ofrecieron dinero por no romper récord mundial.
He's saying that, of course, monetary considerations are always an inspiration. They also push you. But I think I had other very important motivations for me even in that time. And in fact, I was offered money to not break the world record also.
And still you broke them.
Coincidentemente, cuando iba a intentar un récord fue que vino esa oferta. Pero lo único que puede salvar esto es que no lo salte.
TJ, coming to you, it's a question for a modern athlete that across the last decade, no athlete has consistently challenged even the 2.40 meter barrier. And why do you think the men's high jump has plateaued at the elite level, or it hasn't, particularly in India?
I mean, I think they have. I mean, if you go just back 10 years, 5 years, somebody like a Bashima, Bondarenko, Druin, all these guys jumped 240. So it's not that nobody hasn't jumped it in a while, but the 45 is, like you said, is extremely extraordinary because over the last 30 some years, nobody's ever crossed that barrier. But like I think Soto mentioned, it's the pocket that extremely important. Every time somebody's pushed that vertical barrier, there's been a few around that, jumping mark who have helped them achieve that particular goal. And in that process, they themselves have been able to jump extremely high. So I think it all depends on the level of competition that you get, because I personally think it's extremely mentally grueling when you alone are trying to, try and achieve a certain barrier and you don't have anybody around you to push you. So I think they were lucky to have that era where, they had the opportunity, they had the competitors, and obviously, even if you have everything, you still have to make the most of it. So they did.
A quick word from you analyzing the situation in India currently.
I think similarly in India, Sarvesh and I know we kind of, crossed paths a little bit, but I feel like he would have benefited a lot more had I still been high jumping at a very high level, or maybe I would have benefited a lot more had he been jumping at a very high level when I was jumping. But again, I mean, I still think that there's a lot that, we can do, and Sarvesh has a lot of opportunities in front of him. He's done extremely well at the World Championships, recently held World Championships in Tokyo, so I feel like it's just the beginning of something new.
What about the level of training available in India compared to the athletes internationally?
I think that's a very touchy topic because coming from Cuba, back in the 90s, 80s, I don't think they had a lot more than we have right now. So, if they were still able to do what they did there shouldn't be a lot of excuses. But I do think that the level of coaching education that they had in Cuba at that time was unparalleled. And if we can try and push ourselves to not just worry about the athletes, but also the quality of coaches, the quality of people who are helping such athletes, I think that's extremely important. An athlete can maybe win 3, 4, 5 medals, but a quality coach can produce 10 such athletes who can win so many other medals. So that's what I think of.
Swami?
Shavar, you know, we talk about equipment in sport. We talk about a lot about equipment in sport. But say in sports like, in disciplines like high jump and possibly pole vault, shoes play a very big role. The kind of equipment that is now available and the kind of shoes that they're available with, almost like, you know, they're bouncy like this, you know, you can bounce. How much would an effect, positive effect, could you have had if you had the shoes that we have now? Would 250 have been possible?
A ver, no solo el caso de los zapatos, que por supuesto sí ayuda. Los zapatos de hoy en día, lo que es el par, pesan igual o menos que un solo par de zapatos míos.
Yeah, so saying, yeah, it's, the shoes are like today, both the shoes weigh, only one of my shoes would have weighed that. Yeah.
Pero igualmente las condiciones de entrenamiento hoy en día, hay muchos estrategias alrededor del deporte, equipos que a lo mejor te hacen sin tener que, nosotros teníamos que casi estar inventando para fortalecer ciertos planos musculares. Hoy en día hay ejercicios o aparatos que te ayudan a fortalecer cada uno de los planos musculares de tu cuerpo.
Saying, yeah, even in terms of strategy, in our times, we had to basically invent strategies to strengthen different muscles of ours. Now there is not just the shoes, but there is various type of equipment, technology, especially about training, muscle training. So there is much more specialized knowledge available.
Igual que el caso de la medicina, que yo digo que es lo más que a lo mejor yo le hubiera sacado provecho. Es que cuando yo tuve una lección, a lo mejor tuve que estar 6 meses alejado de las pistas. Hoy en día, con esa misma lección, estoy 1.
So it's saying even in terms of like medical support, we had injuries which would have put us out for 6 months. These days you can recover from those in maybe 1 month.
No es lo mismo perder un mes de entrenamiento que perder medio año.
What 1 month in training today would have been 6 months for us back then.
Porque yo creo que las veces que yo tuve un nivel bajo fue producto de esas mismas lecciones, que no llegué a las competiciones en mi mejor forma, producto de estar alejado de las pistas mucho tiempo.
So I feel like some of my not the greatest performances were because of these factors, like maybe I was not arriving at the competition in my best form because of reasons which were outside the track.
Pero igualmente los estudios estos biomecánicos, bioquímicos, en mi tiempo cuando yo empezaba, imposible yo ver a ningún saltador del mundo porque no tenía forma de verlo. Hoy en día es nada más poner YouTube y por YouTube puedes ver a cualquier saltador del mundo en cualquier lugar en cualquier latitud de este mundo.
And the biomechanics, the other technical parts, in my time we did not have all those knowledge about other jumpers, right? Today you can just put somebody's name in YouTube and you'll have the whole analysis come up about your competitors.
En los años 80 me recuerdo, mi entrenador tenía una camarita que había que estar dándole con la mano para recargarla y eran pocos minutos lo que tenía de grabación.
And I remember in the 90s there was like, I had to record for 1 minute and it was like a hand held device, so like it took a long time to produce 1 minute of video.
Y a la hora de verlo no había cámara lenta ni nada.
There was no slow-mo, no special cameras back in the day.
Hoy en día mismo mi hijo, estando yo en Cuba, hay veces que tiene días de entrenamiento, quien nos ayuda, hace su grabación, me lo mandan y yo desde Cuba, él estando en España, yo puedo corregirle.
Saying today my son is training in Spain, I can help him from Cuba. I can just look at his video and I can tell him where he has to do better.
En aquel entonces no teníamos nada de eso.
At our times, we did not have any of these facilities.
TJ, you want to come in?
Yeah, so I want to ask you about disappointment, despair. That's also part of sport, equally important. We have a young audience, a lot of athletes. Going back to 1992 in Barcelona, great Olympics, going up to 2000, another really good performance. But in between 1996, that's when Charles Austin broke the Olympic record, which is still the Olympic record, and you were not there. So in spite of being in the best shape of your life, not having that opportunity, or maybe it being taken away from you, can you please reflect on that and maybe give us your insights on disappointment, how you dealt with it and came back in 2000 and were able to go and win gold again?
La desesperanza o la tristeza de no haber tenido el éxito en esta olímpica y otra vez salió exitoso. Entonces, ¿cómo manejar esta desesperación?
Yo fui a 3 Juegos Olímpicos.
I went to 3 Olympic Games.
En el 92 cogí oro.
92 I got gold.
En el 96 estuve con una lesión.
And 96.
En el 96,
Sí.
una lesión en mi rodilla.
He had a knee injury in 96.
Y en el 2000 estuve un año sin competir. Y luego en 232 empezó a llover muy fuerte. Y yo con la lluvia, por mi mismo sistema, por mi misma técnica, con lluvia yo no saltaba muy bien.
And then 2000, the next time, 2002, I was out of training for 1 year, and then it started raining a lot. And in my own technique, in my own assessment, I did not jump very well when it was raining.
Teniendo en cuenta también que el año 84 y año 88, más que todo año 88, que era uno de mis mejores momentos, Cuba no participó en los Juegos Olímpicos.
And we have to also remember that in 84 and 88, when I was in peak physical form, Cuba did not participate in the Olympic Games.
Quiere decir que en Juegos Olímpicos, aunque haya tenido 2 medallas, no fueron mis mejores momentos, aunque tuve 2 medallas olímpicas.
So even though I have 2 Olympic medals, Olympics were actually not my best sporting moments.
Pero de las 3, ya dije, la del 96, mis entrenadores y tal no querían que yo fuera, porque yo estaba muy lastimado.
Saying in 96, actually, my coaches did not want me to go and compete because my injury was I was very badly injured.
Pero lo intenté y no me salió. Solo pude pasar a final, 2.29, pero los resultados no fueron los mejores.
So I could not do my best. I managed to jump 229, but it was not one of my better moments.
Y creo que eso a lo mejor fue una de las cosas que no pude lograr, un récord olímpico.
So that is the only thing I could not achieve, which was an Olympic record.
Pero igual, siempre cuando tuve alguna frustración, más que todo en el año 96, al otro año, ese año cuando yo no cogí ningún tipo de medalla, en el 96, yo hice un compromiso con mi entrenador y con mi familia, que si el próximo año, en el año 97, en el Campeonato Mundial de Atenas, no ganaba, me retiraba.
So, but then in this entire year, 96, when I did not win anything, I promised myself, my family, and my coaches that next year in the World Championship, if I don't win anything, I'm going to quit.
Mi entrenador decía, pero mira, puede pasar algo, coge plata, no, si cojo plata, cojo bronce, termina mi carrera.
It's like, they were like, no, but you can get anything, like maybe a silver, a bronze. I was like, no, if I'm not getting gold in the Worlds, I'm going to quit.
Y después de no haber tenido ese gran resultado por la elección en el 96, mi objetivo fue ganar el Campeonato Mundial en Atenas y lo logré.
So after not doing well in the Olympics, I set my target as the World Championship and I managed to win it.
Y la mente, como decía, la mente es muy buena y muy mala.
So it's all in the head. It can be very good or it can be very bad.
Austin, que ganó en el año 96, yo en el año 97 hice una cosa en Atenas para que él me viera y mentalmente lo logré.
So I just put one goal in my head for the next year and I just focused completely on it and I managed to get it.
Quiere decir que no que Austin no perdió, pero creo que tuvo que ver una cosa nada más que yo hice delante de él para que él se preocupara.
So you have to focus on one thing which you put in front of yourself and then focus on that and then you have to chase that.
Arup, may I?
TJ, you have a couple of questions for Javier.
I think there's other people there, so I think Rajas is waiting. I'll let him take over.
TJ, thank you so much, Javier. But before all the formal thanks to the translator. You've been fabulous. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I want to know from the champion, the first thing he spoke about was about visualization. Can you take us through what that process was? Who taught him? How did he refine the art of visualization? I think it is one of the most brilliant learnings from this session today. How did he arrive at visualization?
Mira, en el tiempo en que más yo hice ejercicio de visualización fue en el año 96. En el año 96, después de los Juegos Olímpicos, yo estuve 6 meses sin poder dar un salto.
Saying when I learned the art of visualization was in 96, when I spent 6 months without having jumped a single jump.
Y aunque yo lo hacía periódicamente, esos 6 meses fue cuando más lo hice.
So I had been doing visualization earlier also, but these 6 months were when I did it every day.
Porque lo hacía con mi psicólogo, ya no lo hacía solo, lo hacía mi psicólogo y yo.
And this time I was doing it with my therapist, with my psychiatrist, not on my own, but with my therapist, how to visualize.
Y mi psicólogo y yo teníamos todo contabilizado, el tiempo de concentración, el tiempo de la carrera de impulso, el tiempo de vuelo, cada una de esas cosas tenía su tiempo y yo con los movimientos de los dedos tenía que ir haciéndolo para que él fuera teniendo el tiempo de cada una de las cosas que iba haciendo en mis saltos mentales.
And my psychologist helped me map the whole process, how much time it takes, the run up, the jump, the final motion, and we trace that for the same amount of time with my fingers. So we visualize the whole thing as a process in the same time which it takes for a jump.
Por eso dicen en la parte esta del canal olímpico que yo llegué a saltar más de 2.45. Porque en esa visualización nosotros poníamos altura. No es que era visualizar 2.30, ahora pusimos la altura en 2.35. Quiere decir que visualizábamos hasta las mismas alturas.
So that's why in the Olympic channel it says that I made 245 because I visualized that particular height. So even in our visualization we had heights. Like this visualization we're doing for 2.30, 2.35, 45.
Creo entonces que también mi psicólogo en ese tiempo también tuvo que ver mucho con mis resultados.
So my psychologist, my therapist had a lot to do with, my mental coach had a lot to do with my success.
TJ, take us through the conditions available in India. What do aspiring athletes who hope to emulate Soto here, emulate you in this particular sport, what can they hope to achieve? How do they achieve that mental strength? And the absolutely elite level coaching, is it really available to your satisfaction?
I think over the course of time, slowly and surely, a lot of things are, getting available. We have a sports psychologist here with us. We have so many qualified therapists, coaches. Slowly that's also developing. But whenever I've had the opportunity to interact with, elite athletes, somebody like a Soto or maybe Barshim, all these people, the one thing that separates them from the rest is they're able to, one, identify an ecosystem, but then two, be able to stick with that ecosystem for a long period of time, and that's when you find results. Just because you have the best coach in the world and you go train with them for a couple of years and then you jump here, jump ship there, I don't think that's going to yield the results that such legends were able to get over the course of their long careers. It all comes down to identifying that right ecosystem, but then also having the trust that this is the ecosystem that's going to take me to that level, and then just being committed and being able to put in the work every day for years and years and years, and that's when you still might achieve the result. I mean, there's always that uncertainty, but that's also the most, the trend that I've seen among a lot of such champions is they're able to, have that consistency.
Also, if you can briefly explain to us the system of private companies coming in to the sporting arena and helping athletes, adopting the athletes, providing them conditions, also taking them overseas. To what extent has it helped, and do you see any gaps?
Yeah, I think it's huge. It's much needed, having private players come in, help out athletes. Again, it has to be a team effort, right? If you're looking to make India a sporting ecosystem, we can't just rely on the government, or we can't just rely on coaches. We can't just rely on, one or two people. And if it's a dream that everybody sees, then I feel like everybody should chip in whatever way possible. And I feel like it's always a welcome, help that whatever we are getting. But at the same time, I feel like having a structure, having goals that are predefined is extremely important. If you don't have a captain in a ship, then it's going to go anywhere and everywhere. You can have the best ship in the world, but it's still going to keep drifting. So you have to have that person or that ecosystem, that group of people who are able to, guide you, or if it's yourself, that's also fine. But you should have a goal, you should have that mapped out, number one, and then you find the path. You can't just find the path and then decide, okay, if not there, then I'll probably jump here. You have to identify the goal first, and then you kind of, chalk a path. And I feel like that's something that once we're able to identify, then irrespective of facilities, irrespective of, what all we might not have, we might still be able to achieve that goal like Soto and crew did, the Cuban crew did back in the 70s and 80s.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but your national record in India in the high jump still stands. And why did you make the transition to decathlon?
So, that's a very interesting question, because I personally think there's two kinds of athletes. There's one that's like, Sotomayor, there's one that's like Neeraj Chopra, who are in the pursuit of trying to achieve something, maybe that 0.1%. They're already at 99 and then they're trying to go to 99.3, 99.5. And then there's somebody like me, after a point, I probably hit like a 88, and then I try for a few years, I'm like, I can't get to 90, but that doesn't mean my career is over, right? I might be good at certain other things, and I have my own way of doing things, and that was the reason why, in spite of jumping 229 and jumping above 226 numerous times, I still wasn't able to crack that 230 barrier. So for me, it was more psychological than, I guess, physical. I was ticking all the boxes, I was strong, I was fit, I was fast, but I just wasn't able to jump 230. So at that point, it was nobody else's expectation, but just my expectation of me that in spite of doing all these things, why am I not able to jump 230? So then I decided that, okay, fine, this is not going to define my athletics career. Just because I haven't lived up to my one expectation, that doesn't mean I'm a failed athlete. So then I was like, okay, what else can I do to still be relevant in the field and still be important in my own eyes? And that's when I started doing other events, and they started to click. Obviously, I had the raw ingredients. I was strong, I was fast, so I was able to show that in the hurdles. I was able to run a fast 400. And lo and behold, I probably have more medals in the combined events than in the high jump. So I really think there's two kinds of athletes, and there's no one path to success.
I'll toss over to my colleague Arpit John. He has some videos of the top 7. Let's hope we are able to play that. And I'll just keep naming them and their key stats and take a reaction from Javier Sotomayor, who's here. So the number, and these are the people in the best in the world, the top 7 in his sport. The first is Hamish Kerr from New Zealand. And why he matters is he's currently the dominant jumper in the world, marrying consistency and peak performance. The key stat is personal best 2.36 meters. Javier, your word on him, on Hamish Kerr.
Hamish es un saltador que, aunque no veo que es un saltador como para récord del mundo, pero es un saltador que sabe competir a más alto nivel y siempre logra sus objetivos en mundiales y olimpiadas. Para mí es uno que tiene una mentalidad bien fuerte.
So I think he has a very strong mentality. He knows what level he's competing, and with this targeted approach, he's been able to do to win at the Olympics and the World Championship. So I think he is strong and he has his goals clear.
Number 2 on this list is Barshim of Qatar, a very big name, and his key stat, personal best, is 2.43 meters. Why he matters? The only jumper consistently near the all-time mark of 2.45 meters, still a headline threat when fit.
Bueno, sí lo fue un gran reto. Fue para mí el que más cercano estuvo. Y que lo intentó en varias ocasiones.
Yeah, he was a real threat, and he was the closest to me, and he tried to actually make 2.45 various times in his career.
Next one is Tamberi. A quick word on Tamberi, personal best 2.39 meters.
Igualmente, aparte de ser un show, también es un saltador de una mentalidad bien fuerte.
Again, being a top athlete, again, very mentally strong, I would like to say. Like somebody who's out there mentally to compete.
Next one is Woo Sang-hyuk from South Korea. His key stat is 2.36 meters.
Es de los saltadores hoy en día que igual mantienen un alto nivel y eso le ha dado la posibilidad de estar entre los mejores del mundo.
Yeah, he is also one of the current batch of jumpers who maintains a high level, and that will give him the opportunity to be the best.
Number 5 on this list is Jan Steffela from the Czech Republic. Personal best is 2.33 meters, as recent as June this year.
En junio este año, un comentario.
Un saltador joven que todavía tiene la posibilidad de seguir mejorando sus alturas.
Yeah, this is a young jumper, so he has a lot of opportunity to keep improving his mark.
Number 6 on this list is Ole Doroschuk from Ukraine. Personal best 2.34 meters, is known for his consistency.
Es de los saltadores del salto que en estos últimos años más se ha mantenido a un nivel alto por mucho tiempo, por muchas temporadas.
Yeah, he is also one of the ones who has recently maintained a very high level over the years.
And number 7 on this list is Daniil Lysenko, Russian but authorized neutral. Why he matters, he's when eligible and in form a serious contender. Personal best 2.38 meters.
Lo mismo que el saltador anterior, lo que ahora desgraciadamente anda un poco limitado por no competir por su país.
Yeah, he's also the same as the last one, very talented jumper, now a little bit limited in his ability because not being able to compete everywhere.
And would Javier be kind enough to say that out of these 7, who can beat him?
Entonces, si alguien de estos 7 puede romper su récord, sí, en su pensamiento.
A ver, quien más pudo haberlo hecho era Barchín.
Saying if anybody could have done it out of these, it would have been Barshim.
Ahora mismo no está en sus mejores momentos. No puedo decir que no, pero no está en estos últimos 2 o 3 años, no ha alcanzado sus mejores resultados.
Now he's not in his best shape. He's still doing very well, but last 2-3 years he's not at his like all-time best.
Y en esta disciplina los años cuentan.
And in this discipline, the age matters.
And before we wrap up this very, very interesting and wonderful session with Javier and TJ, a last line from Javier for any contenders from India in the high jump. What would his advice be?
A ver, mi sugerencia es lo mismo que casi dije al principio, que tienen que ser muy disciplinados, entrenar con mucha dedicación, mucha voluntad, y si este año están saltando 1.90, el propósito el año próximo tiene que ser 2 metros.
My advice is the same that I gave in the beginning, that you have to be very focused, very dedicated, very disciplined, and always want to do better than what you did last year. Like compete against yourself and better yourself continuously.
Well, we'll wrap this session up. A very special thank you and a big hand for Javier Sotomayor, for TJ, and also for Iqbal for the brilliant way he interpreted and kept us engaged. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you, Javier. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Javier, for giving us a chance, an opportunity to celebrate you. Thank you, TJ. And thank you, Arup, for the wonderful session. And a huge round of applause for Iqbal for translating it so brilliantly and making the conversation so interesting. Thank you so much, gentlemen. If you could please step here for a photograph. Thank you. Well, once again, a huge round of applause for all these wonderful men here and a very interesting session. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now we'll take a short break of 10 minutes for tea and coffee. And we'll see you in exactly 10 minutes. Thank you.